And so the reason I use these rock stars is because I like to call the fuel tax a rock star on its farewell tour. It's been around for a while, been sustainable for a while, living on borrowed time, not going to be here for much longer. Well, not going to be touring for much longer. It won't be too morbid. And overall, the fuel tax has lost about 50% of its purchasing power over the last 30 years. So just to put a number on what the difference is. And that's why we need a new long-term funding source. So there's a lot of different funding options, and a group called the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, which is basically a Department of Transportation trade group, has done several studies looking at them, and they've all got pluses and minuses. So what are some of the most promising here in Michigan? So often things are funded out of the general fund. Had discussions, presentation earlier about transit and how that might get funded. The challenge with highways and the general fund is that it's not reliable, it's not dedicated, and it has to compete against other priorities. And usually transportation does not win versus those other priorities. Sales tax, same thing, competing with other priorities. Also, when there's an economic recession, like we had the Great Recession, sales tax revenue declines significantly, and that can be a real problem if you're bonding against future revenue, which is how most roadway improvements happen. Property taxes, they would need to be extremely high to effectively pay for roads, and it's not something that's currently done. And then folks have looked at, well, how about a tire tax? How about a weight distance fee, which is actually charged in Oregon for trucks? I actually have had some legislators saying, can't we just have Ohio pay for it? And I said, well, I don't think they'd be a fan of that. It's not an easy problem to solve. Tolling is another promising option. Obviously, there's been some studies that have looked at tolling, including of interstates and other freeways, and we actually think with the mileage-based user fee, those go hand in hand very well. But you can't toll your neighborhood streets, and there's also some federal prohibitions that makes tolling a little bit tricky. So tolling part of the solution, but not the whole solution. So that's why we think mileage-based user fees are a promising option. I would go so far as to say the most promising option. As I mentioned, also road usage charge, road charge, vehicle miles traveled fee. These are all, some of it's geographic, some of it's branding. Acronyms have positives and negatives. Again, they would be for all vehicles, not just electric and hybrid. And as the name indicates, it is charged per mile. It is a mileage-based user fee. So unlike the gas tax, which is charged based on the fuel efficiency of your vehicle, if you have a really fuel-efficient vehicle, you win. If you don't, you lose. This is equal for all people.